We would like to caution you about viewing this piece. It is not a pretty sight at all, so please, those of you, be forewarned.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event. Introducing the challenger from parts unknown.
Don't let me go white ghetto on your fucking ass. You make a fool of me, I will get you. It will be a blood match with chairs.
All right.
We're here live from
Yes,
the
we are.
John Lovitz Comedy Club at Universal Studios in California. It's almost live from Parts Unknown. Good to be here, right, guys?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Wonderful.
I'm your host, Broadway Danny Wolf, and my other host, Ken Napzok.
That's right. Thanks for bringing me along and picking me up on the side of the road there, Danny.
The crowd loves you.
Absolutely.
We got himself, Joey Gaynor.
That's the biggest round of applause that Joey has ever gotten in his entire
All
career.
two of Joey's fans are here, and of course, Dan Farron.
Very nice to be here. Always a pleasure to be out of the house.
This is your wrestling show. This is the show people listen to who want their wrestling news and get to talk to the wrestlers who they're fans of and ask questions. And we got our great segments that we usually have. This Week in Wrestling we're going to be doing. And
Right.
of course, our Stump the Hosts. Great show for you tonight. What we have planned, we'll kick it off with the news, which Ken, Joey, and Dan will fill you in on this week's news from the world of professional wrestling. A lot to talk about, right, guys?
Absolutely.
And then we're going to go into discussing something that is big and groundbreaking in the world of professional wrestling, and that's the launch of the new WWE online streaming network, which starts this Monday. And a lot to talk about regarding that, right?
Right. It's going to revolutionize the business, and it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen and how wrestling changes after Monday night.
A lot to discuss there. Dan, you bring us our This Week in Wrestling segment.
As always, I love living in the past because the rent is cheaper.
It's always fun.
I always bring, I love to go back and talk about the old days.
We love to relive that. We got a great guest on this week. We'll be calling in Supreme, XPW wrestler. Superstar Supreme will be calling in.
Had the pleasure of managing him once.
Always fun catching up with
Great champ.
Two-Fin. And he's the Human Horror Movie. That was his nickname. So Supreme will take your calls and texts. Number to call in, wrestling fans, if you want to ask Supreme a question, 818-691-3959. That's 818-691-3959. If you dare to ask Supreme any questions, call in. He'll answer anything. And Angelo, you're standing by to take the calls, right?
Yes.
Good, thank you. And then finally tonight, the segment everybody loves, and that's Stump the Hosts. Two lucky callers. This is how we play the game, right, guys? Two
Define
lucky callers.
Define lucky. Yeah.
Callers.
Two callers.
Two wrestling fans will get to become tag team partners with two of our hosts. So caller one will be Dan Farron's tag partner. Caller 2, if you're ever so lucky, can be Joey Gaynor's tag partner. We give away
right.
great prizes, but you got to answer the questions to win the prizes,
You
right?
have to answer the question correctly to win the prize. If it's about one of the old Funk brothers, you better know which one.
Well, I got the questions right here. They were delivered to me in a suitcase.
A medically sealed suitcase.
Right.
Do the
Which was kept on
co-winners
the-
have to ride home with Joey on the way back?
Yes.
Is that the
Joey
the whole idea.
gives them a ride
Yeah.
Joey
home.
wins.
That's the whole
If
idea.
there's
In the
enough
van.
room in the van.
In the van.
Well, let's get to the news. There's a lot to talk about. Ken, start us off with the news of the week in the world of professional wrestling.
we got a lot to talk about. So what I'm going to do is talk about the headlines going on, and then we can discuss them and see the impact. There's a lot of things impacting professional wrestling this week. I want to start with the saga of CM Punk. Is this a work? Is this a shoot? What has happened is perhaps the most loved star in the WWE has walked out, taken his ball, and gone home. That's not the first time a big guy has done that to Vince Jr. I think with Steve Austin in 2002 was probably the most famous one. But Punk has left. Whether it's a work or not, he is gone. But the big story this week was some pictures emerged of him with his girlfriend AJ Lee, and that spread to rumors perhaps coming from the locker room itself that Punk was in fact fired by the WWE. Now, normally that's dirt sheet gossip, dirt sheet rumors. We don't want to dig into the dirt too much here on this show, but it became big enough that the WWE themselves issued a statement denying the fact that CM Punk was fired or released from his contract earlier.
What's Punk's reason that he gives that he's no longer, or that he walked away from the show?
He has been very, very silent, and this is a man who likes to speak his mind both on and off camera. On Twitter, he's not afraid to speak out against people. Everything about him comes from within him. He's like Piper back in the day. So when that pipe bomb promo in 2011 came about, that came from Punk's soul. We all know that. So it's hard to tell what is a work, what is a shoot. If this was Sheamus, I'd say work, but.
Well,
CM
said,
Punk?
He said, when I walk away from the business, I will walk away from the business, and that's it. And there's only a few guys who really have done that, that have said it and done it.
It's very hard for people to do that.
Yeah.
Well,
you know,
I think also it might be, it also was a very wise tactic to some extent, because he is in breach of contract. I mean, he's contracted through the summer. I think probably he's weighing his options. He's probably very wisely stepping away. He's probably talking to people in his inner circle, because Austin on his podcast and in other places has been very open about the fact that when he walked away for 8 months, he lost a lot of money and he made a big mistake. And if he had to look back and do it all over again, he wouldn't do it that way again. So I think that, obviously there's a lot of things you can say about CM Punk, but one of them is not that he's not a smart guy. And I think he's weighing his options very, very carefully.
He's well known for being inside the business, for being someone who's been very wise with his money. He is not in need of cash, but like you said, and I heard what Austin was saying, and Jim Ross has talked about it too, but there's still money to be made. This guy's only about 34 years of age. That's still a long time, and he's at the top right now.
But in the day, you had a choice to go to a rival promotion. There's really no rival promotion to go to right now.
But I don't think that's what fuels him. I don't think that's important to him at all. It's more of a matter of getting, and whether or not no one's going to know whether it has to do with his push, with if in fact he's just beat up and tired, or what the situation is. Whatever the situation is, he's obviously weighing his options, and I think he's been very, very open in the past about saying that he wants a main event at WrestleMania. He feels he deserves it, and that's what he's looking for.
And that's a good point, and he's not in the top spot right now.
And he's not.
Absolutely not.
Is that why some people think it might be a work or a run-in, or that he will appear at WrestleMania, and this was all...
Good, and you know what? Here's the thing: if it is a part of some kind of pre-planned storyline, they're doing a great job, because what are we doing right now? We're talking about it.
And that's all that anybody's been talking about for weeks.
Chatter.
That's what it's about. That's what wrestling has always been.
I think
who and what and why and how and what.
I think there's
the mystery.
There's two things coming up that will tell a lot about this story. One is if this is basically a work. The best place for him to come back is Chicago. They have a show coming up in Chicago. That's his hometown. That's where the drama would be there to do it. Also, they're getting very, very close to finalizing who's going to be on the video game. Okay, and if maybe he's not interested in money, but there's a lot of money to be had by that video game.
You think?
Just a little bit, yeah.
And look, he has put a lot of time and effort. This is his passion, at least coming up it was. Maybe he's beat up now. And I got to imagine he is. The guy takes a punishment. He's smaller than most of the other main eventers he's going against. He had a great run with Lesnar and already Kane and all these things. He allegedly had a concussion at the Royal Rumble. So maybe he just wanted to go home and relax.
I always admired what he did because of his size, I believe when he was wrestling with tape around his ribs, he really had some bad ribs. I mean, because you could see the look on his face, just walking to the rings. I mean, the guy really poured his heart and soul, and he has a respect for the business too. Maybe he just feels his body is done. But if this is a work, it's one of the best ever. Well, it's not like years ago when a guy would split and he'd go to Ted Turner, or he'd show up at some outfit in Memphis.
I don't think we'll ever really truly know if it's something planned, because Vince and his team are smart enough to take something like this and turn it into an angle.
Right.
There's money to be made in reality in wrestling, as we know.
Right.
How many times do we real life bleed over onto the screen? And then if someone like Bischoff can show up in WWE in 2002 and Vince sees money in him, he certainly can see it with that. One of the rumors, of course, and it is just rumors, that Vince is more on the side of I want him back, and others are kind of like, hey, he walked out on us. If that's at all true,
he's forgiving. Vince is pretty forgiving.
Well, yeah, he can be at times on certain things, and I think also the man is mellowing in his older age. I mean, and I think one of the things with the network going on the way it is, they don't want to have a lot of grudges out there. I mean, let's face it. Everybody thought hell froze over when he got back with Bret Hart and Bruno Sammartino, and Randy Savage is probably the only person left that they haven't really been able to resolve that issue there. But obviously, it would be nice for everyone concerned if they could bring Punk back into the family again.
It would. Another big story this week: WWE and NBC Universal do not. That's capital letters, Joey. Do not have a deal in place to broadcast Raw or SmackDown over on Sci-Fi, Raw on USA. If this stays in place, the deadline is September 30th. That would be the last week of broadcast on those networks. NBC Universal has a right of first refusal now, but WWE, which, by the way, secretly over the years have been syncing up their contracts to all expire at the same time. You cannot tell me Vince Jr. does not know what he's doing.
And when is the internet thing pop? Is that
February 24th.
Monday.
Which we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, let's talk about that, because there's a lot to go into about this new WWE network.
It's going to be amazing.
And we'll talk about that when we come back. From
Hi, I'm John Lovitz, broadcasting to you from the John Lovitz Comedy Club at Universal City in Hollywood. And I'd like to invite you to come down every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. We tape all these great comics at the John Lovitz Comedy Club, and there is no cover charge, and there's no 2-item minimum. Just come on in, get something to eat if you'd like, and enjoy these fabulous new comedians. And you can see them on the John Lovitz Comedy Network, but come down to the taping live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. at the John Lovitz Comedy Club and Podcast Theater at Universal City Walk in Hollywood.
Welcome back to Almost Live from Parts Unknown. Discussion is underway. WWE Network launching next week. A lot to talk about. Dish Network,
dropping the
DirecTV.
pay-per-views.
Yeah, one of the stories that's at the beginning of this past week was interesting. WWE Network announced that they're going to have 1,000 hours of programming available upon its startup, which is February 24th, 9 a.m. Eastern. Interesting, great, a lot of hours, except they originally promised 1,500 hours of programming. So already people slightly suspicious. Here we go. It's going to fail. They're dropping down. But today they released their schedule, and there is a lot of shows that are going to be available when the network launches right away. Some of them, the WWE Countdown Show will be Tuesdays at 10 p.m. The Legends House is going to debut a little bit later, April 10th. I'm very excited to see Piper and Hillbilly Jim in the same house. Yeah, together. NXT is going to be available. The great show. If you're not watching NXT, which is available right now on Hulu, it is their training fed down in Florida, and it is the best hour of WWE programming right now. It is the most interesting characters to watch them grow, and some of them you're seeing the next generation, the Shield and those guys, and Cesaro. They were kind of the first guys to come out of FCW and the new revamped NXT. But now you got Alexander Rusev, Emma, who's great. Paige is on her way if she comes back from injury. They've got great talent brewing down there. Sami Zayn, formerly El Generico. So Hulu, I don't know what they're going to do, because now you got the network. And also Superstars and Beyond the Ring, which is a classic matches with bios and old footage. That's going to debut March 1st. Best of Raw, Best of SmackDown, and, of course, the Countdown shows. If you love watching 8 hours of pregame football talk before Super Bowl, you're going to get that now with Raw and SmackDown pre- and post shows. Josh Matthews will finally have more airtime.
So this is for the network, which is streaming. So it's $9.99 a month.
A month, and you have to commit for 6 months, Danny. Commit.
But you get the pay-per-views that are usually like $50 to $70 are part of this package. So you will no longer be paying $50 to $70 per pay-per-view. It comes with the $9.99, right?
Right, absolutely. I had Dan over for the Royal Rumble. He contributed about $5 and brought a bag of chips. But yeah, and
French
interesting enough, what happened today? Joey, you and I were talking earlier. Dish Network announces SIA WWE pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Not going to carry.
This is like the wrestling. This is like the wrestling wars all over again, but done at a whole entire different level.
What's funny to me about Dish dropping, first of all, Dish Network is weak, and then they drop something that they're pathetic. Yeah. And no, they are. It's sick. I mean, anybody that's got it knows what I'm talking about.
Just writing that down. Dish is sick.
Dish is sick and pathetic, and to drop something that is a
We'll
moneymaker.
still take sponsorship from them, though.
I'm not worried about that. I got dishes at home, and they get better reception. The point I'm making is that this is a moneymaker, and you're just going to drop it. Yeah. It's like, how dumb. I mean, it's just dumb.
Here's one of my outtakes. My outtakes is you're causing me to outtake myself. Here's one of my takes on this. Technology is great. It's moving forward at a fast pace. But Dan and you and I have talked before about not everyone's going to suddenly switch over to I'll watch my wrestling on the internet box.
Right.
TV is still the way, and it's going to it will get
especially
to the point.
when you get to those large pay-per-views. You talk about the pay-per-view is probably the main thing that's going to drive this network to start with. Yeah. And what's going to happen is most people aren't going to want to watch WrestleMania on their phone or even on a tablet. You're going to want to watch it on a big screen TV. Now, as long as you have a Roku or an Apple box or one of the PS4s or whatever, that's great. You can put it up on your big screen TV. But if you don't have that, there may be some hesitation right there at first.
But what DirecTV has not dropped
it. They've not dropped it. Time Warner has not dropped it. They know there's probably, especially in the first 6 months, money still to be made. I'm surprised Dish is taking the stand now.
Well, I also heard, and I can't verify, but I did hear something today about AT&T Uverse not carrying it. So that may be a situation also, too.
AT&T Uverse has a lot of things they don't carry.
He has a lot of opinions on cable providers.
I've had them all.
We're losing potential sponsors by the second.
Danny, you have a lot of TV background.
Yeah,
Can you talk about what you feel this network potentially will do, positive and negative? I think it could change the TV industry, not just the wrestling industry.
Well, the wrestling and TV, it's remember when we were young, wrestling was on independent network stations, Channel 9 or Channel 13. Right. That's all gone. And then when cable came around, wrestling jumped into cable and ran cable. Now that's sort of going, and now everything is Amazon or Hulu or even Xbox or Netflix, and it seems like wrestling's now jumping into the streaming world.
Well, it's always a natural progression. But let's go way back to your early days when you were working for the old Financial News Network. That was if anybody had wrestling and watched wrestling back there from Hawaii, that was the network where they used to actually have the wrestling and they had ticker tape running above and below it, back and forth that way, and everything was compressed like this. But when that was on FNN, what kind of deal did they have? How did they just pick it up as a barter deal? What was it?
When I went to work for FNN Sports, which became FNN Score, which was like mini ESPN at the time, we're talking 1987, 88. We were running California Championship Wrestling, a little local, but it was airing nationally, but it was garbage. And I remember going to the owner, who was a wrestling fan, saying, "Hey, why don't we get?" There's a lot of independent wrestling shows on just in those territories. Memphis, CWA Wrestling, which was run by the Jarretts and Jerry Lawler, happened to be incredible, but it was only seen in the South.
Right.
So I remember saying to the owner of the network, saying, can't we just do a simple barter deal with them, give them national exposure, and in exchange, maybe they keep a couple of minutes spots to sell T-shirts and they fly me to Memphis so I can announce some matches. Yeah. And we did it in a phone call. Next thing you knew, CWA Wrestling was on nationally on FNN, so they weren't just being seen in the South.
Right.
They were being seen from coast to coast. It helped their exposure. These were barter deals. It was very simple back then.
When you worked on the, I'm sorry, Joey. When you worked on the, but when you worked on the AWA, the big
Super Clash,
what kind of situations? And that was several independent groups. What kind of situation was it? What was the setup there?
The setup was because WWF was doing their pay-per-views, WCW or NWA was doing theirs, but they were big enough to have big pay-per-views to make money. I mean, there was Starrcade, and there was the Bash, the Great American Bash, and
Clash of the Titans and all that.
right.
stuff.
We had but all these smaller independents never could do a pay-per-view because nobody would buy it. So our idea was, let's get all the little ones. Let's get Portland. Let's get Memphis. Let's get Continental. Let's get AWA, and put them all together in a big one pay-per-view. And we called it Super. It was only Super Clash 1. That's as far as it went.
Yeah, exactly. Don't forget WOW. Don't forget WOW.
Yeah, actually,
Women of
WOW or
Wrestling.
Glow, we had a women's match in there too.
Okay, I remember that.
But at those times, so we put these little independents together and we did a pay-per-view, and that was it. It was a 50-50 split, and all the wrestling companies made a little bit of money. I mean, times have changed.
Well, I remember the very first WrestleMania wasn't on a whole lot of cable places. I mean, I in Los Angeles, it wasn't on. Certain cable wasn't carrying it. I went to the Long Beach Arena.
Well, it wasn't actually. It wasn't. It was closed circuit only. In fact, the only place I believe
on the first one,
the very first one, yeah.
Okay.
They didn't really go pay-per-view until the second one. Okay. But I remember the only place it may have aired as a pay-per-view was Pittsburgh, because for some reason they had a malfunction and all the people inside the arena and it didn't come through. So what they do is they put it on TV like the next day for people. But I remember going to the sports arena to see it, and it took place in the afternoon. And the trouble was with the sports arena, every time someone would come through the curtain, the sun would flash into the arena and you would black out the entire screen. You couldn't see anything.
I actually went up here to Universal Studios, to the Universal Amphitheater, and they had like giant screen TVs on the stage, and there's 3,500 people, and I was up in the balcony, and you can barely see it.
Yeah.
But it was sold out.
How much did you have to pay to get in?
It might have been $20.
Long Beach Arena.
Joey will show it for $5 in his van.
I in the van. I put it on the tablet. I went to the Long Beach Arena. I think we paid $12.95, and but their screen was the biggest screen. I had been there before for boxing, but this was the biggest screen I'd ever seen. It was like a huge, giant television. But it was like being at the live event because it had all the energy. It was pretty cool.
Can you make any predictions from your expert TV background, Danny, what this network will do to the wrestlers? We're hearing, going back to Punk, maybe one of the issues is they haven't been transparent in the books about what this will do to take-homes and payoff bonuses and stuff like that.
I don't know how it's monitored. I have no idea. I mean, it's $9.99 per month.
Yeah.
They take the money in, but is there advertising? Is there sponsors?
We'll find out. February 24th.
We don't know yet.
9 a.m. Eastern if you sign up.
I think they're selling Vern Gagne T-shirts.
Everybody wants one of those. Well, a lot going on.
Yeah.
That was fun to talk about. But our next segment when we come back, this week in professional wrestling, Dan Farron, you'll bring it to us when we come back.
I have the history for you.
We're from parts unknown. Darn it.
It's fabulous working with you, my friend.
Something.
Is your boy still up there?
My boy is right here, right behind me.
Who is that? Who is that?
That's Spoiler 58.
Spoiler 58.
And he
sitting
tells
over
me
Joey
things.
Gaynor's shoulder.
He sits over my shoulder. He tells me things.
He's a big fan.
He should have told you not to wear that hat, but that's what he should have told you.
I love this.
Hi, I'm John Lovitz, broadcasting to you from the John Lovitz Comedy Club at Universal City in Hollywood. And I'd like to invite you to come down every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. We tape all these great comics at the John Lovitz Comedy Club, and there is no cover charge, and there's no 2-item minimum. Just come on in, get something to eat if you'd like, and enjoy these fabulous new comedians. And you can see them on the John Lovitz Comedy Network, but come down to the taping live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. at the John Lovitz Comedy Club and Podcast Theater at Universal City Walk in Hollywood.
I say we go there after the show. They have the best potato salad. Oh.
Hey, we're almost live from
Almost
Parts
live, I'm
Unknown
sorry.
here live at the John Lovitz Comedy Club here at Universal Studios City Walk in California. Our favorite, my favorite segment. I won't speak for you two. This Week in Wrestling. And Dan
Yes.
Farron, you're the one who brings it to us.
Always do. Always do.
too.
Always. I love wrestling history. That's always one of my, my big thing. And a lot of
mine.
things.
I love that.
Oh, that's good.
That's why I'm excited about this segment.
I'm so glad you're excited. Let me get to it, and we'll talk about it.
I'm here.
Sitting there wearing something from the Superstar Billy Graham collection. Thank you very much.
That's my own.
But no, a lot of things happening, a lot of history this week, and it's ironic because this kind of ties into what we were talking about with wrestling just a few minutes ago. It was exactly 1985. 1985, this week, the Brawl to Settle It All from MTV.
Yeah.
Mr. T jumping in the ring during the Hulk Hogan-Roddy Piper match, which set up the main event for the very first WrestleMania.
Madison
Do you
Square
remember
Garden.
that?
Yep.
You know,
War settled the score.
The
I
war to
remember
settle
it
the
well.
score.
Cyndi
The war
Lauper?
to settle the score. Cyndi Lauper actually in the corner of Wendy Richter. Wendy Richter losing the belt to Leilani Kai.
Yep.
To set up another match, and it was one of those things where it was that's when wrestling was getting to be really, really cool. All of a sudden,
MTV.
all us nerds who liked wrestling before would never talk about it, but now you can start talking to your friends and your coworkers about it because now they
You had
were
rock and rollers getting involved.
yeah, they were always
big
very
entertainers.
Huge
very
exposure.
interested. And it got
was
a
huge.
lot
It
of
was great.
news. And what do you remember watching that live?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Ken, you were just a swaddling baby on your mother's knee
I
at
was
that
about
point.
10 years old,
Yeah,
but
exactly. And I don't want to hear
my
that.
good friend Lou Santini actually has.
There he is now.
That's me watching Star Wars in the back of my VW.
Exactly.
parents' VW
Actually,
van.
a lot of people had that reaction to watching Wendy Richter wrestle, but that was the whole.
Well, the divas
I
have
think I bought that
changed.
van.
Yeah,
I think I have the van. It's the van
my
outside.
good friend Lou Santini has the original tape version that he taped on a VHS tape of the War to Settle the Score, and every once in a while we just bring it out.
Wow.
Original commercials and all, and we'll just sit there and watch it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And you have a VHS
we
player,
have a VHS
VCR?
player. You have to. Yeah,
That's the thing about
VCR.
wrestling fans. Everyone keeps and still has
Oh, I do
their
too.
VHS tapes.
I do.
still have every one.
About 1,100, if I'm right,
Yeah.
stored.
That's
I
why
do.
you can't park your
Seriously.
van.
Yeah.
You
I can't
put it in
park
the
the
garage
van.
because
Evidence,
all those
but-
tapes are there.
Some of them are. I can't show people.
Well, another thing also, an anniversary this week, a sad anniversary, and I wanted to bring this up with you especially. It was in 1995, 19 years ago this week, that the great late Eddie Gilbert passed away in Puerto Rico. Eddie Gilbert, for anybody who, hopefully everybody should know
Hot
who
stuff.
he is.
Hot stuff.
They
Hot
should.
stuff, Eddie Gilbert.
A big force behind the scenes with Bill Watts's UWF and with
That was
the
a
NWA.
great organization.
Exactly, and he had a lot to do. He had a lot to do with bringing along Sting and Rick Steiner when they first started.
Yeah.
And I know, Danny, that you actually worked with Eddie Gilbert quite a bit when you were down with the CWF. Do you want to share any memories?
Well,
of that?
he was wrestling in CWA in Memphis.
Yeah.
And it's funny, the whole Gilbert family was down there. Tommy Gilbert and Doug and Eddie.
Doug the Pro.
Eddie was a huge Jerry. He told me he grew up with Jerry Lawler posters on his wall as a kid.
Wow.
And then he used to wrestle Jerry Lawler when he was down there at this time.
Yeah, you told me. I just want to bring it because this popped in my head. You told me a great story because you were there the night that Jerry Lawler won the AWA World Championship from Kurt Hennig.
Yes.
And you had a memory about Eddie Gilbert watching. Do you remember that story about where he was watching up in the balcony because he was a heel and he couldn't? I'll tell the story. Don't worry about it.
Too many stories.
But there was, he
So many
he
stories.
wanted so badly because he idolized Lawler to enjoy that moment and take it in.
Sat in the crowd.
But he had to sit in the crowd. He couldn't because he was a heel, so he had to sit way up in the balcony and just sat there and watched it with kind of a melancholy. You said.
Eddie, to me, was similar to what Jeff Jarrett is now. Coming from the wrestling family and Jarrett growing up and starting his own federations, Gilbert did the same thing. When he left CWA, not too many years before he passed away, he started Continental Wrestling, which was out of Alabama. He was married to Missy Hyatt at the time. and then passed away in Puerto Rico. And he just got Continental Wrestling was going. We put that on FNN Score as well.
that on FNN Score.
And he was one of the nicest guys, hard worker, and
there's a
missed.
great shoot tape that's out there. I don't know how it's available, called "Looking for Mr. Gilbert," and it goes into a lot of the psychology that he used, and it shows clips of different angles that he remembered from Memphis wrestling that he reused in Continental.
Sure.
And also, people forget, like when Ricky Steamboat came back to the NWA to wrestle Ric Flair, they used Eddie Gilbert, because he was so over as a babyface, to bring Steamboat in as the old mystery tag team partner. And also, Gilbert had a lot to do with Eastern Championship Wrestling, which eventually became ECW. Booking that. And he also, right before going to Puerto Rico, was working with Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And
he worked with Global as well, right?
He worked with I think briefly.
USWA was that?
Yeah,
he worked with everybody. He was somebody who everybody wanted to work with, and
he had a good reputation as a booker, not just a worker.
He had a great. He would talk about when he was in UWF. He said that he could lose every night of the week for a year, but when the match was over, he still had his heat. Which is kind of lost a lost
Should a lot
art.
of independent wrestlers now maybe pay attention to that quote?
They should pay attention if they study it and realize what it is, as opposed to what they may think it is. It's two different things.
The heat is real. But I remember him in WWF when Bob Backlund brought him in, and he was going to wrestle the Sheik, and the Sheik goes, "He bring this American boy. I'm going to make him suffer so bad," because he did the neck injury bit.
Yeah.
So he got him, of course, and he had to give up like immediately because of the neck injury, and of course Backlund then went in and did the Sheik.
Yeah, I mean a great loss to the wrestling business. I really think, and he would only be 53 years old now if he was still alive. And think about the contributions that he could be making in the business at this point.
And he passed away when you said 1995.
1995.
What was it? What? How did he? Was it in?
It was a heart attack. Whenever there's a heart attack, there's always a lot of controversy. The story at the time, and I went and took a look back, was that the body was beaten up so bad. His body was that it just the heart was damaged after all these years.
He was a guy that wrestled 5 nights a week.
Oh yeah,
he didn't take or 6.
And he was a bump machine.
Yeah.
He was all over the place.
He did high spots. I mean, he really was he was great. I mean, he really, really was. And it is a very sad thing.
Right.
It's like when we lost Brian Pillman. There was another guy that was a great high flyer.
Yeah, and to bring this up too, this is kind of, I don't mean to be a downer, but also in 1993, 21 years ago, this is also the same week that Kerry Von Erich committed suicide. So
we don't want to be a downer. So
no, not at all.
No.
But again, I'm saying is
Also,
that
why
family
don't
was
invite
a
Dan to
disaster.
parties anymore?
yeah, exactly. No, I do want to mention that because again,
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Spoiler
If there was any,
must have
if there was
Spoiler
any, if there was
58.
any part of the Von Erich family left, they would complain. But no, the
But that was during the time where the Von Erichs were sort of dropping almost yearly.
yes,
They were
exactly.
falling like Melinda's.
Tragic family
Well,
story.
and there's probably a very good movie to be made someday about the Von Erich family. Not a documentary, but an actual
right,
movie.
Well,
but
I
when you
don't
look
know.
at
Wouldn't it be a bit depressing though if they did a movie about? I mean, each
no,
one.
it'd be
How many of them
interesting.
committed suicide?
nobody ever makks depressing movies, Joe. There's not.
They never win Oscars.
Saving Private Ryan was the funniest movie I'd ever seen.
There was a lot of funny stuff in that. Tom Sizemore, running around with cans of dirt. That was pretty good. Hey, look, I got France here.
And Kerry Von Erich too. I mean, it's hard for those who don't know him and they're younger watching wrestling, you got to go back and see some stuff of World Class Championship Wrestling.
Yeah,
you talk about an entire federation having an amazing amount of love and heat every night, and watching the Von Erichs versus the Freebirds.
And it was
matches.
it was a situation again where Fritz raised his boys to be Texas heroes, and I always used to love those watching them come to the ring on those old World Class shows because they would literally have to ply the girls off them, and to get them down there. And again, Kerry would be 54 years old, and that would be the kind of thing now where he'd be doing a guest spot in the Royal Rumble or something.
Sting coming back to the
exactly.
maybe
When I lived in
fence.
Houston, I used to go down to Paul Bosch's wrestling thing, and I got to see Von Erichs live once.
Yeah.
They were just awesome. I mean, that was a really great promotion. And Paul Bosch did a great job down there. He really did.
Well, thank you, Dan, for bringing us.
You're welcome.
Thanks for brightening up Joey's night with
Yeah,
the good news.
I'm going home and I'm going to watch the Freddie Prinze story and read Wired.
Anytime I can make Joey happy is a good night
and then
for
I'm
me.
going to put on Whitney Houston records and take some somas.
When we come back, XPW superstar Supreme will be on the line. Remember to ask Supreme some questions. He'll be on the line, and the Human Horror Movie.
That's right.
Will be here when we come back.
And we'll
almost
hear from
live.
Spoiler
from Parts
58
Unknown.
will be filling in some.
Say hi to Spoiler 58 over Joey's shoulder. He's always in the house.
Hi, I'm John Lovitz, broadcasting to you from the John Lovitz Comedy Club at Universal City in Hollywood. And I'd like to invite you to come down every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. We tape all these great comics at the John Lovitz Comedy Club, and there is no cover charge, and there's no 2-item minimum. Just come on in, get something to eat if you'd like, and enjoy these fabulous new comedians. And you can see them on the John Lovitz Comedy Network, but come down to the taping live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. at the John Lovitz Comedy Club and Podcast Theater at Universal City Walk in Hollywood.
We are back, almost live from Parts Unknown. Now, this was the time of the show we were supposed to have a wrestler, Supreme, join us, but I think Supreme may have been lost in Parts Unknown.
You know, if you get off at the wrong off-ramp, off the freeway to Parts
Parts
Unknown, you can wind up
you're in
going
trouble.
round
You're
and
in
round
trouble.
circles.
You're in trouble.
Or he's out having a burrito Supreme, one or the other, I'm not sure.
We scored a better guest. How about that? That's what
I'm
we
up
do
for it.
here from Almost Live in Parts Unknown. We've got Kurt Brown. Wrestler Kurt Brown is on the line. Kurt Brown, famous in MPW wrestling, Millennium Pro Wrestling, has wrestled in AAA as a star in Incredibly Strange Rock and
Incredibly
Wrestling.
Strange Rock and Roll Wrestling, that's right.
Kurt Brown, are you on the line?
I am on Danny Wolf. And it's been ages since I've talked to Broadway Danny Wolf. How have you been, my friend?
Good, Kurt Brown. Boy, we're lucky to have you on the line, and we're already actually getting some texts from some listeners who are going to have some questions for you. But how are you, my friend?
I am doing really well. We just recently relocated to Claremont and totally digging this college town. And just keeping myself busy with all my trivial hobbies and keeping company with all my delusions.
Well, that's what I wanted to start this off with. You mentioned all the wrestling characters you've played, and I've announced several matches you've been involved with over the years, and I've lost count on how many delusions you've wrestled under. There's been so many. What were the 3 to 5 that come first to your mind that you're most known for?
Well, if we're doing Incredibly Strange Wrestling, the very first one that would come to mind would be probably the most tasteless one, The Abortionist.
I think I managed you that night.
I believe so, and the first time I ever did it, Ron Head and J.R. Benson, I can't remember which one of them, it might have been both of them, said, "We have a gimmick for you." And that was when Physico Nuclear debuted as Cletus the Fetus Kincaid.
I remember him.
Fabulous.
So that was
character.
the abortionist versus the fetus. And
Did you send that tape to the WWE to watch? Or?
Well, they did wind up with
thrilled.
they did wind up with something in a bag that was real similar, right? Yeah.
This is absolutely true. Now, I was the Aztec mummy once, and I requested that. I had always wanted to be the Aztec mummy.
I managed you then as Senor Albondigas. I was under the hood. I had the Tinieblas.
This is yes, I remember that well.
It was awesome.
It's funny, Kurt, you mentioned one of the most tasteless characters you played as the abortionist. I think there was one character you played even more.
Lucky?
No. I'm talking about the HIV kid.
HIV kid, and he feuded with several people, including the original Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ became a wrestler, and that was one of the other gimmicks I did was Televangelist.
Get back to the original Jesus Christ was a wrestler. You as the HIV kid, you wrestled the original Jesus Christ, and what we did is we had a $10,000 check to any fan that can prove that was not the original Jesus Christ. If anyone in the crowd could prove he isn't the original Jesus Christ, we never gave the money away.
No.
Yeah, he is Jesus, and I'll have you know he's happily married to Feminatrix, and they're presently living in Hong Kong. They have had 3 children together. And, so Jesus is a very happy man. A very humble man, too.
There we go.
There he is.
Hey, Kurt, this is Dan. Listen, I want to get away from this mainstream stuff that you were doing first. And now, this is your 31st year in wrestling, isn't it?
It certainly is.
I mean, that has to kind of set a record, doesn't it, for a lot? There's been very few guys that are still working in the wrestling 31 years after they started.
Well, I think part of it is because I'm a domestic house cat. I never fancied trying to make a career where I'm on the road 7 days a week. So I think that has allowed my body to kind of, avoid wear and tear. I've been banged up a little. I've broken a few digits, that kind of thing. But I've never had to wrestle 7 days a week. My first match was in 1983 at the Azteca Boxing Gym in Bell, California, and believe it or not, I was more experienced than the guy was wrestling, even though it was my first match.
And who was your opponent that night, Kurt?
A fellow by the name of Surgeon Number 2.
Whatever happened to Surgeon Number 1?
He became Surgeon Number 3.
No idea. I think he traded masks. One day it was Pistol Pete. Another day it was this kid Pete was training. I can't remember who the guy it was on this time. He was like a friend of the promoter, and it was a very simple match. 10-minute time limit. He was supposed to go over, but he forgot to finish.
Huh?
And this is a complex finish, so you got to listen to it. The referee told him go to the finish. Should have told me. The finish was, I throw him into the turnbuckle, I charge him, he moves, I hit my head on the turnbuckle, knock myself out. He pins me.
Simple.
The referee told him to finish, and I was really nervous. It was my first match, so my mouth was dry, and I was just, this is the longest 5-minute match. When's it going to end? And then suddenly I hear the bell ringing, and the announcer says, we go to a 10-minute draw. And we're asking what happened, and my opponent said, oh, man, I forgot to finish.
Hey, Kurt, hang on just 1 second. Angela, can we add somebody in? Is that possible to do? Oh, we cannot. Okay.
Oh, dear.
One call at a time.
Who was it?
Oh, that's okay. No, actually, we'll have him wait for the next time. I do find that Supreme has found his way to a phone, is on hold, but there's a couple more things. There's some more things.
He is an animal.
I want to ask you because you've wrestled Supreme. What was that like? Because you guys' styles are very different.
It was an amazing experience because wrestling Supreme. I've known him and Joey since they were kids starting out in Incredibly Strange Wrestling. Had the honor of working with them back then. And back then, they were really intent on stiff and hardcore. And, Supreme loves hardcore. That's his baby. But to my amazement, when I wrestled him, I felt totally safe with him. I did not feel a thing. He looked like he was killing me, kicking my ass. But I learned that night that if you want to work stiff, he'll work stiff with you. Mm-hmm. But he can also work, lighter than anybody. He is really wonderful to work with and a wonderful guy, too.
What was probably what do you look at as the biggest thrill of your career?
Oh, God, there were so many. First one was in 1984 when I got to wrestle Jack Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
Wildman Jack Armstrong was a hero of mine growing up. And I met him on the night of my very first match, and the one thing we had in common is we knew this really eccentric wrestling fan named Captain Lenny from New York. And I asked Jack, do you know about this guy named Captain Lenny? And he was untying his boots as I asked him that. And when I asked him that question, he froze like a statue. And he just looked up at me with that Jack Armstrong grin and said, "Oh, my God, you sick man, how do you know this creature?" So that was my first big thrill. Being able to do the hair versus mask with Physico Nuclear, somebody who I had been friends with since high school. And most recently had the honor of being best man at his wedding last December, as he married his longtime companion, Christopher Murillo.
Kurt, we got a text. We have a Roger from Costa Mesa. Want to ask, where did the character Lucky Pierre come from?
Well, I think we all remember that because there was a day in Simi Valley when an American promoter was doing a TV taping. And, of course, you all remember this because, Danny, you were doing commentary along with our late friend Danny Wolf. Danny Wolf.
Whoa, wow.
Oh, my God. Danny,
here.
I'm so sorry to hear that you passed away.
Yeah.
Barely.
You make a good spirit. No, our late friend Larry Doyle.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Danny. Usually you're the one who dies when people mention folks who passed away.
This is true.
Dan is whenever somebody local passes away, people think it's Dan for some reason. Says, "Oh, he was such a nice guy," and as they describe him and his whiskers and his witty sense of humor, we're like, "No, you're thinking of Dan Farron, not whoever." Well, anyway, yeah, that show, Dan was involved, Danny Wolf was involved, Larry was involved, and Frankie and I were going to wrestle each other because the guy wanted a lucha libre style match. So it was going to be Vandal Drummond, who was doing like a gay gimmick at the time, against Frankie Destruction D.
Mm-hmm.
And the promoter walks up to us and says, "Okay, who are you guys?" And I said, "I'm Vandal Drummond, this is Frankie D." And he says, "No, your lucha libre names," as he put it.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "No, Vandal Drummond and Frankie D." And he says, "That's not lucha, you need some masks right now." And we started to explain to him that lucha style does not mean you put a mask on your head. But then we stopped and thought, wait a minute, he's paying us decently. If he wants masks, we'll get masks. So fortunately, I had my bag full of incredibly strange wrestling gimmicks. And I had a mask that had the Star of David on the forehead and a yarmulke on top. Mm-hmm. And so we turned Frankie into the Tel Aviv Terror.
Yom Rapport.
Yes, exactly. And
Kashavanish.
yeah, exactly.
Kashavanish.
You know it well. Now, Lucky Pierre, the other mask we had was this white mask that had a cross on it. In fact, that mask was made for the character Telly Evangelist. And we're trying to figure, okay, what do we call me? Here I am in this pink singlet and a white mask, and there was this tape full of trailers. In fact, I think they were trailers that Johnny Legend compiled for Something Weird Video. And there was a trailer to this really, really bad flick called The Adventures of Lucky Pierre from the early 60s. And just on a lark, Danny Wolf, was it you or was it Larry who said Lucky Pierre? One of you guys suggested it, and I said, we're there.
I can't remember.
And that was the night I came back. We came out with a dozen red roses, and I was just flaunting myself all over the place.
I remember that.
Remember I gave you the roses and gave you a big wet one?
Gave me a big kiss in the ring. I remember that.
That's right. And Lucky Pierre was born and was in demand ever since. Would like to point out that Lucky Pierre is now going to be forming a tag team with El Delicioso will be known as the Creepy Uncles.
Now that's. What, can I ask you a very quick question? You were trained by one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Dr. Jerry Graham.
Yes.
And I know you were close to him, and that's and something that we're gonna. There's something I got here. I'm going to send you. I'm going to surprise you. But
wow.
yeah. It's. But I just wanted to.
No.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to bring that up because he was an innovator and he was just a great wrestler. And I know that you trained with him and you were really close. And if you have 30 seconds or anything about Jerry, that would be great.
Oh yes. He was a bull in a china shop wherever he went. As somebody once tried to tell me that his heavy drinking and cigar smoking was all at work, which is funny in itself. But no, he was a wild man, and I love the Doc, but he could be so out of control. He was fond of going for long walks in the nude. He weighed about 400 pounds, and with bleached blonde hair on top of that. And
that's what he's talking about.
It's Dr. Jerry right there.
And I said my key to a lasting friendship with Dr. Jerry Graham was I shared all my secrets with him except for two. The two secrets I would not share with him were my home address and my telephone number.
Smart man, Kurt Brown. Kurt.
I have one more question for you before you go, though.
Okay.
You spent 31 years in the professional wrestling business, right? You couldn't afford to buy a phone that doesn't echo?
Absolutely. Now I couldn't afford to buy a house with a room that doesn't echo. It's the room that's doing it.
Listen, I'm going to send you a June 1964 copy of Wrestling World with Dr. Jerry Graham on the cover. That's my gift to you, my friend.
Oh, Joey, thank you.
You got it, brother.
That's what you get for stopping by here almost live from Parts Unknown. Kurt Brown, thank you.
Kurt Brown, baby.
Thank you, Kurt.
Let's hear it for Kurt Brown. Thanks for stopping in, Kurt.
The original Jimmy Cyclone.
Thanks, Kurt. And folks, when we come back, guess who's going to be on the line? Supreme. So call up, text us. You got the number, 818-691-3959. Supreme will be on the line when we come back.
Oh, that's going to be good.
Hi, I'm John Lovitz, broadcasting to you from the John Lovitz Comedy Club at Universal City in Hollywood. And I'd like to invite you to come down every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. We tape all these great comics at the John Lovitz Comedy Club, and there is no cover charge, and there's no 2-item minimum. Just come on in, get something to eat if you'd like, and enjoy these fabulous new comedians. And you can see them on the John Lovitz Comedy Network, but come down to the taping live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. at the John Lovitz Comedy Club and Podcast Theater at Universal City Walk in Hollywood.
We are back from the John Lovitz Comedy Club here at Universal Studios in Hollywood, California. We're almost live from Parts Unknown, and guess who's live on the line with us? Supreme!
Hooray! Soup!
XPW Superstar, the king of the death match. How you doing, Supreme?
Very, very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You are the human horror film. That's who you are.
Yeah, I take pride in that.
Now, Supreme, how long have you been wrestling? How many years now?
Oh, Jesus. I believe KS is always good with the numbers on that. because we started at the same time. I think 18 years.
Wow. So how's your body holding up after all that hell you put it through?
Actually, not too bad. I mean, other than like other ailments I have, but wrestling, I mean, I get sore backs and scars all over my body. But other than that, I'm okay.
When you are the king of the death match, do any of our anybody who's watching or listening out there explain quickly what is the death match?
Death match is well, we don't really try to kill each other.
Just come this close.
What we do is like it's especially what I like with the West Coast and what XPW and the style that I start doing is it's a wrestling match, but it just involves like barbed wire, light tubes, thumbtacks, and stuff like that. You'll get other death matches, which, all they do is they go through all that stuff. But I take pride in when I do a death match, it's a wrestling match, and then we go through certain things, but it's still, if you take everything out, you could still see it regular, solid wrestling match.
So it's not for the squeamish.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no. Lots of blood and gore and...
So how do you lay one of those out? When you go to your opponent, how do you build on that? What do you like to do to make that match exciting and not just garbage brawling?
Well, like a regular match. I mean, I get it a lot too. That it's like Vic Grimes. He used to be in XPW and WWE for a little bit, and I had a feud with him, but he'd go on interviews and tell people, it's like, he goes, he'll do death matches, just to do them and, but he's like, but Supreme he loves doing it. So I totally love doing that type of match, and the way I go about it is like, I treat it like, to me, I'm so familiar with it and I'm so into it that I treat it like a regular match, but we have all these other things involved in it.
Like barbed wire.
Well, for you, it is a regular. It is a regular match for you. I mean, that's your thing. I mean, you are the king of the death matches, brother. That's a.
Yeah, and that's a funny thing, to bring up my son in this. It's like raising him up, and people always tell me, it's like, oh, what does your son think about the way you look? Because the way I look with my tattoos and everything. I tell people, I was like, you guys don't realize I am his father, so I am the most regular person in the world.
Hey, Supreme, we have some people tweeting in questions to you, and obviously your XPW pass, people love that Fed. It's thought of highly here in L.A., and so you got some fans. We got people tweeting in. At Hellkid Rules asks, what is the most painful thing you've experienced in a ring, though I'm going to change that to say in or outside of a ring, because I'm sure most death matches don't always end up in the ring.
Well, it was a match between me and Chaos. I forgot what the show was called, and it's back then when it was just a regular match. He was, we were both faces in it, but the Enterprise, that's right before he joined the Enterprise, they set a table on fire, put me on fire. I was on fire for like 16 seconds. I was running around like Homer Simpson, and yeah, that was the most painful. But other than that, like, cracked ribs, those are always the worst because they take a really long time to heal.
Now, Supreme, I was wondering, I think you've basically done every crazy thing that you possibly can. Has there ever been anything when someone's come to you and said, I want to do this, and you said, wait a minute, even I'm going to draw the line there?
The sad thing is no.
I'll do anything.
I used to show up at XPW shows, and I'd show up and I'd see Rob sitting there. Rob Black would be sitting there like with a smirk on his face. I'm like, what do you want me to do now? And he'll like tell me, and and I treated it like stunt work with the certain things that we did, but yeah, it's like and then people always find it funny when I tell people that I am scared of heights. And I've done so many things, like I've done the scaffold match, and I'm glad I didn't go off of it. And I've, gone up 16, fallen off 16-foot, ladders and stuff, and jumped off balconies. But yeah, and people are always surprised because I always say I'm scared, shitless of heights.
Hey, Supreme, do you ever remember or did you lose count of the most thumbtacks you've ever pulled out of your skin after a match?
Yeah, I never really. The thing that's funny now is like fans are so into it. Like I don't even have to take them out anymore. It's like they'll take it out and they'll keep it. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Oh my God!
Well, it's that would be like some lady in Vegas getting Tom Jones sweat. So that's
exactly the same
right
thing.
there.
Badge of honor.
Badge of honor. There,
Supreme, we had.
I think the funniest thumbtack I had was like after a show. It was an XPW show in San Bernardino, and right after it, they had to rush us, to the airport because we had to fly. Me, Homeless Jimmy, and Chris Smith had to go to Japan. And then as soon as I jumped in the car, I changed real quick. I jumped in the car, and it's like there was a thumbtack in my ass, and I'm like, I full on jumped down, and like I jumped back up. I was like, oh man! And the one thing a lot of people don't realize too is with thumbtacks, it's like you go through them, pull them out of my head and whatever. And if you ever really look into a match and watch a match, once you see a wrestler go down, and then the first thing they do is they pull it out of their hand because that's the word. It's like it's stuck in my head, it's stuck everywhere else in your body, but as soon as it gets in your hand, you got to pluck it out.
Now, we just had, prior to your segment here, we had Kurt Brown on the air, and he talked a little bit about what it was like to wrestle you. I think Turnabout's fair play. What's it like to wrestle Kurt Brown?
Oh, it was fun. It was just, I wrestled him many, many years ago when, I think it was the paparazzi gimmick.
Yeah, those
paparazzi. That was fun, and that was like Louis Bean Camp.
I remember that. That was funny.
When we were in the Incredibly Strange Brothers, but recently last year I wrestled them on our first singles match, and it was a fun match. I liked working with them. It was good to see him still out there, though.
He has very high praise for you, by the way. So he's a big fan of yours. I've got to ask you, you're one of the biggest horror film fanatics in the world. What's your favorite horror film of all time?
The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Good.
He didn't even hesitate.
No
he
hesitation.
knew that.
I thought you were going to say the original Zombie, the Zombie. You remember Zombie?
Yeah,
that's my favorite zombie movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best one.
Lucio Fulci's Zombie.
That's the best.
The splinter in the eye scene.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I always loved the shark scene when they drugged up the shark and.
And then the zombie bites into the shark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't go wrong with the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh yeah, no. It's funny because when you asked, and I'm walking around. I walk to my kitchen. I have it on the side of my refrigerator, the poster, the original poster.
It's a classic. I mean, great. You can't pick anything better than that.
Yeah, and the funny thing is with that movie, it's like if you think about it, there's no gore in it. They don't show you anything. It's just a great horror film.
Yeah, you're right. Because actually, when they put her on the meat hook, you see her from the front screaming, so you don't see it go into her skin.
Yeah, and that's one of the most brutal scenes in the movie. That and him shutting that door.
Yeah, where he slams the metal door. Oh.
Yeah, even when the old man is like dropping the hammer on her head, Grandpa, he can barely hit her with the hammer.
That was so creepy.
That was very creepy.
Grandpa. Well, Supreme, thank you for calling in. It's always good talking to you.
Oh, anytime. Thank you for having me.
What's next? What's going on in your world right now?
I do the Santino Brothers every now and then. And we're starting up a UEW. It's Underground Empire Wrestling. They used to run in Ventura before, and now they're going to start running in LA. We're going to start maybe in a couple of months. And
great.
It's like a couple of former students of mine. They ran that show, and I'm going to be 100% behind this one and helping out with it.
Well, we'll definitely plug the shows when they're coming, and we'll have you back on. Thanks for stopping in to Parts Unknown, Supreme.
Thank you very much. Thanks again.
Great.
Take care, brother.
And fans, when we come back, it's everyone's favorite time, Stump the Host. So when we come back, we'll have two lucky listeners tag team partner up with Dan Farron and Joey Gaynor, and we'll see if we can stump the host when we come back.
Yes, come back.
Hi, I'm John Lovitz, broadcasting to you from the John Lovitz Comedy Club at Universal City in Hollywood. And I'd like to invite you to come down every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. We tape all these great comics at the John Lovitz Comedy Club, and there is no cover charge, and there's no 2-item minimum. Just come on in, get something to eat if you'd like, and enjoy these fabulous new comedians. And you can see them on the John Lovitz Comedy Network, but come down to the taping live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. at the John Lovitz Comedy Club and Podcast Theater at Universal City Walk in Hollywood.
We're back, almost live from Parts Unknown. Our last segment of the show. This is it, folks.
Yeah.
It's a quick
quite a journey.
It's been quite a journey, but you know what it's time for? Stump our hosts.
Okay.
Wrestling trivia. We got 2 callers. Each caller will get to tag team, one with Dan Farron, the other with Joey Gaynor, and we'll see who can get the first 3 questions right wins. Right,
And I promise I will not have any help from Spoiler 58, who's I'm the only person who can hear him. So.
I see him right behind you. He's looking like he's trying to tell you something. But
What are you wearing?
I'm wearing my thinking fez. What else?
all right.
Does it work?
We'll know
We'll
after
find out,
if
yeah.
he goes
In a few
if
moments.
he doesn't get a
Hasn't yet.
question right. All right, who do we have on the line first? Who's Dan Farron's tag team partner?
You know,
Blaine. Sorry.
Oh,
Look, she's from
name.
Parts Unknown.
we have Wayne.
Blaine.
Oh, Blaine.
Blaine.
All right, Blaine, are you there?
Blaine.
Hello?
Yeah, hello?
Blaine, how you doing?
Hey, good. How you guys doing tonight?
We're doing good.
Doing
We're
good,
glad
Blaine.
you're on the line. Your tag team partner, Blaine, is Dan Farron.
Glad you're on the phone, Blaine, and not behind the wheel of a car.
Oh, that's great. So I'm with Dan Farron?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, good. I don't want to be with Joey Gaynor.
No, that's okay.
You and 4,000 other women.
Means you want to win. And all right, and who's Joey's tag team partner tonight?
Story of your life, Joey.
You know what? I'll have to if it's.
Christine.
Oh, okay. I
Christine?
have a partner. Christine. Okay. How you doing, Christine?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm very good, very good. And I hope you know about wrestling.
The pressure's on already, Christine.
Absolutely.
All right, so here we go. We're going to do trivia right now. It's Blaine and Dan. They'll be going against Joey and Christine. First question's going to go to Dan and Blaine. You ready? You ready, Blaine?
I'm ready.
We're going to go back to 1994, WrestleMania 10 at Madison Square Garden. This was known as the first ever 5-star match. It was the first ever ladder match. Who wrestled in the first ever ladder match at Madison Square Garden, WrestleMania 10, 1994?
Do you know this, Blaine? Do you know this one?
I was incarcerated in 84.
Oh. Well, you know,
94.
luckily for you, I was out on bail in 1994. The first WWF ladder match took place between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon.
Oh, great.
Very good. Dan Farron and Blaine, you got it right. That was known as the first ever 5-star match at WrestleMania 10. So Dan,
Now,
Farron, and
the question for Joey is name everyone in the audience. No.
Michaels actually he had six ladder
Jimmy,
matches in his career.
Frankie.
Very good.
Yeah,
I'm impressed.
Razor Ramon, wasn't he? His name's Scott something or other. His real name?
Scott Hall. Yeah.
Scott Hall. Very good. Blaine.
Very good. That's too bad it wasn't a question. It's okay.
Here we go. Chris Stark, Dan. You keeping score here, Ken?
I am. Dan's up 1-0. It is scores first to 3 in this inaugural edition of Stump the Host.
Pressure's on. Joey, the Fez, his buddy behind him, spoiler 58, and Christina. Here we go. Your question. Andre the Giant attempted a comeback in the 80s as a Japanese wrestler in a tag team called what? So this was for Joey.
This was the Machines, the Super Machine. They were the Machines.
Don't you want to see if Christine agrees with you?
Well, I wanted to win. I'm not even gonna. What do you think, Christine?
I don't know.
It was the Machines.
But what was Andre's name?
No, Andre was the Super Machine.
All right, they're going with the Machines. Well, I asked what the tag team was called, and the answer is the Machines.
Now,
very good.
Now, he said Super Machine, but in actuality, it was Giant Machine, but I won't count that.
But that wasn't what
I just asked what the question.
I asked what
that wasn't the question. You see,
You gave
this
too
is the
much
problem.
information. You gave too much information.
You know what? The
Here we go.
All right, here we go.
Here we go. Question number 2 for Blaine and Dan. Here we go. You ready?
Stymied by me. Yes.
I'm ready.
The Undertaker is undefeated, as we all know, at WrestleMania matches.
Correct.
How many WrestleMania matches has The Undertaker consecutively won?
Oh, God, I've never been good at math.
Well,
Dan?
you were incarcerated, right? Were you
Well, no
incarcerated for
pay-per-view.
longer or less than this time, do you think?
Well, I was from 84 to 87.
Oh, okay. Boy, I'm not real good with numbers, but I'm going to take a guess at this one. I've heard this off and on, and I know if it's not right, it's very close. I'm going to say 21.
All right, Dan, your tag team partner's going 21. Blaine, you agree with that?
21 is
If he's right, I agree with him.
Well, here is the answer.
Well, don't I get a steal?
No, you don't get a steal.
I said I get it right first.
Well, his first match at WrestleMania 7 was against Jimmy Snuka, and WrestleMania 29 against CM Punk. That makes 21.
Oh,
Dan is 2 for 2.
Very good, very good.
Yeah, first match was against Jimmy Superfly Snuka, WrestleMania 7.
Pull that out of my trunk.
Yeah, Jack Roberts.
Very good. So Dan's
I'm on fire. This is great.
That's right.
Here we go for Christina and Joey. You're down 2-1, right?
Yep, 2-1. Dan Farron in the lead.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Let's go.
Joey and Christina. In Mick Foley's only main event match at the 2000 WrestleMania, what name did he wrestle under?
Bridget Bardot.
No, that's. I believe he wrestled as Mankind.
So you're going with it, the 2000 WrestleMania. Again, that was the only main event match he ever had in the WWF at the time. So you're saying he wrestled under the name Mankind.
Give me another
You
second.
are incorrect. You are incorrect. Now,
I was saying, just give me a second. I was going to.
Judges ruled.
Ken's
Time
the
was
judge
out.
here.
That was
Time
too
was
quick.
out.
That was too quick. That's all right, though.
Now, Dan, if you can steal and get this right, that's 3. You'll be the winner. So we know it wasn't Mankind. So who did he wrestle under? What name at WrestleMania?
Who did he wrestle under? That's a whole different thing altogether there. But I believe. Blaine, are you ready? I think we're going to win this, Blaine. You ready?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. I believe that he wrestled under his real name, Mick Foley.
I 100% don't have to phone a friend. I agree.
Well, you know, he had a few other characters, Dan.
Yes, he did.
You right?
Oh, fun.
The answer to who he wrestled as in WrestleMania at year 2000 was Mick Foley. Dan and Blaine go 3 for 3. That is impressive.
Sweet.
I'm sorry.
Sweet.
They get 3 for
Very
3. That was
impressive.
great.
You did
That's
well.
real impressive. I got 2 questions, and it's all right. It's okay. There's a parking lot, and there's vendettas.
I'm going to give Joey just one last
Give
question.
Joey another
I'll give
question.
all right.
Well, we'll get a booby prize.
It involves managers.
There.
You've managed. So here you go. This is a bonus. So if Joey gets this,
You're throwing him a bonus?
You win your own magazine. You don't have to send
we send Christine a copy of The Wrestler from 1960.
Now, you can confer right here if you want to ask your buddy above you, Spoiler 58. He can help you here. You got help from on the phone. You got help from behind you. It's going to be a manager question. What city was legendary WWF manager Bobby the Brain Heenan billed from?
Beverly Hills, California.
Wow.
And let me tell you something. That was the greatest wrestling manager that ever lived. You'll never find another Bobby Heenan as long as the world turns. And I mean it. I mean it. He was a great man and a nice guy.
Well, he got it right. Give him a ding.
He did.
He did it right. Beverly Hills, California, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Dan, you won this round of Stump the Host. You and Blaine win.
What does Blaine win?
Blaine wins a subscription to Joey Gaynor's Wrestling Magazine collection and also a T-shirt that says, I met Joey in an alley, and all I got was this T-shirt. Luckily.
And you'll be able to order those, folks, for only $29.95 and $80 shipping.
Well, that's it.
Wow. That's great.
Blaine sounds,
Blaine wishes he was back in jail again. That's what he
Very
you
excited.
have no help to me, spoiler.
Congratulations, Blaine. Thank you, Christina. Great show tonight, folks.
Yeah.
Great show to our hosts here, Ken, Joey, Dan.
Let me tell you people something. When we bring the Sheik to Detroit, Mark Lewin... Oh, wrong era.
Whoops. The Magic Fez.
The Magic Fez just disappeared.
Fans, we hope you had a good time with us tonight here from Almost Live at the John Lovitz Comedy Club at Universal Studios here in Hollywood, California. We're here from Parts Unknown every week. We'll be here next week, same bat time, same bat podcast.
Exactly.
Ken, thank you.
Thank you for having me, Danny. Fun to be here.
Joey, always.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
And Dan, we'll see you again next week.
See you next week.
You'll see the same cast of cronies here. We love it, Almost Live from Parts Unknown. We'll see you next week.
Take care. Oh, spoiler system.